If I could go back to the day I walked into that bank with my mom and brother, I'd yank the pen out of my own hand before it touched a single line. But I didn't sign that day. And that one moment, one tiny no, changed my entire family forever. Let's rewind. My name's Jordan. I'm 25 now, but this story started when I was 20 and working 2 jobs while going to school part-time. My life was a juggling act of minimum wage and microwave dinners. I wasn't some genius entrepreneur or rising star. I was just grinding to survive. My brother, Elijah, was 23. The golden boy. He was the kind of guy who could crash a car and have mom say, "It's okay, sweetheart, we'll get you another one." I once scraped a fender in a parking lot, and she made me pay half my savings to repaint it. So yeah, different rules for different sons. Elijah had dreams. Or more accurately, he had plans that someone else always paid for. His latest dream was opening a high-end sneaker boutique. He had no business experience, no real savings, just a mood board, a logo he made in Canva, and a girlfriend who called him CEO on Instagram. He needed a loan. A big one. But his credit was trash. Late payments, max cards, that kind of thing. The bank wouldn't approve him a loan. So he came to me. Or more accurately, my parents did. "Just co-sign, Jordan," my mom said, waving a stack of papers like it was no big deal. "You have good credit. Be a good brother." A good brother. That phrase had been weaponized against me since I was old enough to tie my own shoes. Be a good brother and let him have the last piece. Be a good brother and let him go first. Be a good brother and give him your laptop when his broke because he's got more important stuff to do. I looked at the application. The loan was for $85,000. "Mom, if he doesn't pay this, I'll be on the hook. I can't take that kind of risk." My brother leaned back in his chair, smirking. "I will pay it. The margins on resale are insane. You're just being paranoid." "Or responsible," I said. That was the last semi-civil word spoken in that meeting. Within 10 minutes, my mom was accusing me of being selfish, ungrateful, and trying to sabotage your own brother out of jealousy. My dad just stood there silent, like he always did when things got uncomfortable. Elijah finally snapped. "Don't worry, man. One day I'll be the one bailing you out. Remember that." I walked out. The fallout was immediate. They stopped talking to me. No more invitations. No texts on holidays. No check-ins. They even had the audacity to tell our extended family that I was cutting myself off for reasons unknown. I didn't correct anyone. I figured people would believe what they wanted, and if they believed I was the villain, fine. I didn't have time to argue. I had to work. 5 years passed. I graduated. Moved cities. Got hired by a small but fast-growing logistics firm. Worked my way up, got promoted. My credit stayed perfect. I started saving. Investing. Building. I didn't hear from my family. Not a word, until 3 months ago. My phone lit up with a message from a number I hadn't seen in years. It was my mother. "Jordan, please. It's Elijah. He's in serious trouble. We need your help." I stared at the screen. For 5 years I was invisible. Now they needed me. But what they didn't know was that I'd already heard the rumors. I knew what had happened to Elijah's sneaker empire. The unpaid debts. The investors threatening lawsuits. The shady crypto scheme he tried to pivot into that exploded like a water balloon full of gasoline. And I already had a plan. Because they thought I was the same quiet, obedient kid they left behind. But I wasn't. Not anymore. The irony was wild. They needed me, the kid who wasn't even invited to Thanksgiving the year after I said no. The kid who got an email saying, "We're giving Elijah space to shine. Maybe you should do the same." The kid who was basically erased from family photos that magically only ever included one son when posted on Facebook. And now, here I was, staring at a text message from my mother like it had been sent from a parallel universe. "Please. It's Elijah. He's in serious trouble. I didn't respond right away. Instead, I scrolled through her message history. It was empty. Of course it was. I could have gotten hit by a bus 5 years ago, and they wouldn't have noticed unless they needed someone to pay the medical bills. But now they wanted something. I called my best friend, Kareem. He answered in one ring. Tell me they didn't try to loop you back in with a guilt trip. Oh, it's worse, I said. They said Elijah's in serious trouble. You mean, like, he invested in rare NFTs and now owes a guy named Victor 6 figures trouble? Something like that. Kareem paused. So what are you gonna do? I took a breath. I'm going to help. He was silent for a beat. You sure? Oh, not in the way they think. 2 days later, I texted my mom back. Tell me what happened. Her reply came instantly, like she'd been staring at her phone for hours. It's complicated. We're ashamed. Can we call you? I agreed to a call, mostly out of morbid curiosity. We scheduled it for 8 p.m. the next night. I expected some kind of chaotic conference call, but it was just her on the line. And she got right into it. Elijah's in debt. Serious debt. I didn't respond. He made some mistakes. The store didn't work out. Then he got involved with some investors who were more like loan sharks. Bingo. She continued. He owes over $120,000. There are threats. People showing up at the house. He's scared, Jordan. I'm scared. I kept my voice calm. So you're calling because we need help. You're doing well. We saw on LinkedIn, you got promoted. Bought a condo. Your life looks stable. And? There was a long pause. We were hoping you could lend him the money. There it was. Not even subtle. 5 years of silence, gaslighting, and betrayal boiled down into a single, shameless ask. She tried to follow up with something about family sticking together, about how Elijah was just a kid who got in over his head, and how a good brother would want to help. That phrase again. I let her finish. Then I said, I'll think about it. She sounded surprised. You will? Yes. But I have some conditions. Of course. Anything. I want to see the full financial picture. Every document. Every invoice. Everything he owes and to whom. She hesitated, then agreed. The next day, I received an email from Elijah. No, hey bro. No apology, just an email titled, Per Mom. Attached were scanned documents. Bank statements, loan contracts, even screenshots of threatening DMs from people he owed money to. I analyzed it all like a forensic accountant. It was worse than I thought. Multiple business partners had walked away with startup capital. A crypto NFT scam he funneled $40,000 into, gone. And several signed private loans with interest rates that bordered on predatory. He wasn't just in debt. He was on the verge of legal ruin. And that's when I found it, buried in one of the PDFs, an LLC Elijah registered for the store, co-signed not by me, but by our father. I sat back in my chair stunned. So they did get someone to co-sign after all. Dad. And now they were both drowning. Which meant this wasn't about Elijah anymore, it was about saving themselves. And suddenly, the picture became very clear. They hadn't called me because I was family. They called because their golden child had finally dragged them under, and I was their last raft. But here's the thing. I don't do life preservers for people who threw me overboard. I do torpedoes. So I set my plan in motion. I spent the next 48 hours gathering everything. Not just the debt breakdown from Elijah, though that was juicy enough to make a tabloid blush, but also records from public databases, LinkedIn posts, business filings, old Facebook posts, and a few leaked receipts sent to me by one of Elijah's burned ex-employees. People are very willing to talk when you ask the right way, and say, I'm not here to save him, I'm just here to understand. Apparently, Elijah wasn't just careless. He was a nightmare. He'd burned through vendors, skipped payments to designers, lied about having exclusive sneaker deals, and even ghosted a charity event he'd promised to sponsor for his own birthday party. The guy rented a white Rolls just to take photos in front of his store. That was barely a glorified kiosk with track lighting. I compiled it all. A beautiful, devastating digital file folder labeled The Golden Son's Legacy. And then I planned a visit. Wait, you're going there? Like in person? Kareem asked. Yeah, I said. They need to see me with their own eyes. Because for years, I was just a name they mentioned when they needed a cautionary tale. Now I'm the solution they think they deserve. He whistled. This feels like a soap opera. You need a theme song. I smirked. I've got one. It's just the sound of generational disappointment imploding. It was surreal pulling into the driveway of my parents' house after all that time. Same ugly beige paint job. Same mailbox duct taped at the hinge like a stubborn metaphor. Mom opened the door, flustered and overcompensating with a tight, fake smile. Jordan. She breathed like I'd been shipped home from war instead of blacklisted by my own family. You look healthy. Thanks. I eat. Dad was in the living room, older, balder, and significantly quieter than I remembered. He stood when I walked in, but didn't speak. Probably because he knew I'd seen the paperwork with his name on it. Elijah showed up a minute later, barefoot and still smug, wearing a hoodie that probably cost more than my rent 5 years ago. I didn't shake his hand. Let's make this fast, I said. I pulled out my laptop and opened the folder. What's this? Elijah asked, squinting. Your resume, I said. The unfiltered version. The one that gets people investigated by the IRS. That got their attention. One by one, I laid it all out. The debt, the predatory loans, the fake business partnerships, the missing inventory. The paper trail he left like a toddler with glitter glue and no supervision. Then I turned to my parents. You wanted me to co-sign this? 5 years ago you told the family I was jealous. Unstable. You had an intervention because I refused to take on his debt. And now you expect me to bail you out of a mess you willingly signed on for. They tried to jump in. I raised a hand. I'm not here to argue. I'm here to offer a deal. That shut them up. A deal? Dad echoed, frowning. Yep, I said. I'll pay off the debt. All of it. The full $120,000. Their faces lit up. But in return, I continued, Elijah signs over full ownership of the LLC. He removes his name from every associated asset and you, I turned to my dad, sign a legally binding document releasing any further claims against me financially. You both agree, in writing, to never ask me for money again. Ever. Silence. And, I added, you both will be honest with the family. You'll tell them the truth, everything. About the lies, the favoritism, the damage. My mom's jaw dropped. You can't be serious. Oh, I am. Very serious. I've already written the statement. You just have to sign it. You want us to humiliate ourselves? She snapped. No. I want you to stop pretending you didn't choose one child and discard the other. This isn't humiliation, it's honesty. Elijah leaned back, arms crossed. This is blackmail. No, I said calmly. Blackmail is secret. This is a buyout. Your failure, my price. The room was tense. My mom looked like she was deciding between crying or stabbing me with the nearest scented candle. My dad just looked tired. Elijah? Furious. But they knew I wasn't bluffing. And I was prepared to walk away. Because the difference between me and them? I had nothing left to lose. They had everything to lose, especially the house they were about to default on if I didn't step in. After 15 excruciating minutes of whispered arguing in the kitchen, they returned. We agree, my dad said quietly. And just like that, the deal was done. The golden sun was out. The invisible sun was in charge. And I had no intention of playing nice. I gave them the contracts the next day. legally airtight. Signed in front of a notary I personally brought to their dining table. Elijah scribbled his signature like it physically pained him. My mom wouldn't look me in the eye. My dad, well, he looked like he'd finally realized the cost of picking a favorite. When the ink dried, I became the legal owner of Soul Dominion, LLC, the same name Elijah once flexed across all his custom merch and YouTube vlogs like he was the next retail tycoon. And that's when I told them the final twist. I'm not saving the business, I said. What? Elijah blinked. I'm shutting it down. Liquidating everything. Filing the final taxes. It's over. You can't, he shouted, half standing. There's still value. There's still branding. My followers. Your followers watched you burn through 5 investors, lie about your stock, and fake a collaboration with a rapper who's never even heard of you, I said calmly. There's no brand left, just a smoldering crater. My mom tried to speak, but I cut her off. This isn't revenge. It's closure. She didn't respond. Because what could she say? This wasn't the obedient little brother they once gaslit into silence. This was a man with receipts, power of attorney, and a fireproof ego. They turned their backs on me when I had nothing. And now that I had everything, I was using it, not to destroy them, but to prove I didn't need them anymore. The following week, I hired a CPA and an attorney to help dissolve the company properly. We sold off what little inventory remained, most of it off-brand sneakers Elijah had picked up wholesale from suppliers in China and tried to rebrand as limited edition. The business was a joke. No assets. No profits. Just debt and delusion. Within 3 weeks, it was officially closed. I took the final check from the liquidation, $3,682.41, and donated it to a local nonprofit that gave underprivileged teens their first pair of real basketball shoes. I included a little note. From Soul Dominion. Hope you make better use of these than we ever did. Then came the real fun, the family statement. It was simple, 1 paragraph, posted to the same family Facebook group where my mom once called me confused and selfish. It read, We owe our sincere apology to Jordan, our son, for the way we misrepresented events in the past. His decision not to co-sign Elijah's business loan was the right one, and we regret the way we treated him as a result. Jordan has since helped us navigate a very difficult financial situation, and we are thankful. We ask our friends and family to respect his privacy moving forward. No spin. No fake praise. Just facts. I didn't even gloat. Okay. Maybe I smiled when Aunt Carol commented, Took you long enough. A few weeks later, I got a text from Elijah. You happy now? You destroyed me. I stared at it for a long moment. I could have said a lot. Instead, I sent one word. No. Then I blocked his number. Because this wasn't about destroying him. It was about rebuilding myself. But karma? Oh, she wasn't done yet. Turns out Elijah had been applying for new loans under a different business name, Kicks Ascend, before I shut Soul Dominion down. He thought he'd just rebrand and relaunch like nothing happened. But his credit? Destroyed. His name? Attached to a string of flagged vendor complaints and 1 pending investigation for fraudulent advertising. And the kicker? One of the investors he ghosted filed a small claims suit and listed me in the documents because of the LLC transfer. I showed up to court with every piece of paper Elijah signed to absolve me of all liability. The judge dismissed me from the case. But Elijah? He got chewed out in open court. I sat in the back, watching it unfold like the world's pettiest victory parade. Afterward, the investor shook my hand and said, You're not like your brother. Damn right I'm not. By the time summer rolled around, word had gotten out. Not just in our family, but in our town. People who once whispered, Jordan's just jealous, were now saying things like, It's a shame how Elijah turned out, and that Jordan kid's got his act together. Amazing what receipts, restraint, and the right amount of calculated revenge will do. But then I got the call. From my cousin Alyssa. Now, Alyssa was the only extended family member who'd ever really had my back. She was the one who texted me the night my mom told everyone I was on something, because I'd stopped showing up to family dinners. Plot twist, what I was on was a 60-hour work week and surviving without anyone's help. Alyssa called, laughing and whispering like she was at a middle school sleepover. "You're not gonna believe this," she said. "There's a family barbecue next weekend. Grandma's birthday. Guess who RSVP'd?" I groaned. "Please don't say Elijah." "Elijah. Your parents. The whole All-Star Guild trip team. And get this, your mom's telling people you'll be there." I wasn't invited. "You are now," she said, sighing. "Because I just added your name myself. You need to come." I hesitated. "Look," she continued, "I'm not saying burn the whole place down. Just show them what you've become. Let them see what they lost." And that's how I found myself walking into a backyard filled with the scent of overcooked hot dogs, folding chairs, and unresolved emotional trauma. I didn't go to flex. But I did wear a nice button-up and brought a bottle of $80 wine nobody there could pronounce. Petty? Sure. Effective? Extremely. The moment I stepped onto the patio, the energy shifted. People stared. Some smiled nervously. My uncle gave me a nod like I just returned from war. Then I saw them. My parents. Standing side by side like a glitch in my personal matrix. My mom gave a tight smile. My dad did his classic nod and avoid eye contact. Move. And then Elijah walked out from the kitchen, holding a red Solo cup and wearing the fakest grin I'd ever seen in my life. He froze when he saw me. "Jordan," he said, with a tone that made it sound like we were in a hostage negotiation. "Elijah," I replied coolly. "Still selling air and ambition?" He blinked. Silence. "Boys," my mom cut in. "Not here." Alyssa slipped up next to me and whispered, "They've been telling everyone you were part of Elijah's business journey." I nearly choked on a sip of wine. "Are you serious?" "Oh yeah? Apparently, you were consulting in the background. Helping with strategy." I looked at her and said, "Wanna see something fun?" She grinned. "Always." I pulled out my phone and airdropped her a PDF. The original LLC termination paperwork, signed, sealed, filed. Clear as daylight. 10 minutes later she, accidentally, opened it in front of a few relatives. Loudly. "Oh, weird, this says Jordan dissolved Elijah's company entirely. That doesn't sound like consulting." Cue, awkward silence at the lemonade table. I didn't stick around to gloat. Instead, I took a walk around the house, stopping when I saw something I hadn't expected: my grandma. She was sitting in a lawn chair, wrapped in a fleece blanket despite it being 75 degrees. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. "Jordan," she said, reaching for my hand. "I was hoping you'd come." I sat next to her. We talked. Not about Elijah. Not about the drama. Just about work, and life, and what I was building. She leaned in at one point and whispered, "You know, I always told your mom not to put all her eggs in one basket. Especially one with a hole in the bottom." That almost made me tear up. Not because it was shady, but because it was the first time someone older in my family had acknowledged what I went through. Before I left, I gave her a real gift, a framed photo of the nonprofit we donated Elijah's liquidation check to. Kids holding up new sneakers with big grins. She stared at it for a long time. "You're doing something real," she said softly. And I realized that was the approval I'd been chasing all along. Not from Elijah. Not from my parents. But from someone who actually saw me. I left that barbecue without saying goodbye to Elijah. He'd already said enough, with his silence, his ego, and his choices. But before I reached the driveway, he caught up to me. "You think this is over?" he hissed. "You think you win just because you've got your little nonprofit and a condo?" I turned slowly. "I don't think I've won," I said. I think I stopped losing the day I stopped being scared of disappointing people who never clapped when I succeeded. And then I left. He didn't follow. A week after the barbecue, I got an email. Subject line: "Let's meet." No drama. It was from my dad. No hello. No apology. Just 2 sentences. "Your mother and I want to talk. One-on-one. No Elijah." I stared at it for a long time. If you'd asked me 5 years ago, I'd have killed for this, some acknowledgement, any sign that they wanted me around for me, not as Elijah's financial backup dancer. But now it just felt like bad PR management. Still, curiosity got the better of me. I picked a public cafe. Broad daylight. My turf. They were already seated when I arrived, pretending to sip lattes like they hadn't spent half a decade pretending I didn't exist. My dad stood up halfway, then sat again when I didn't go for a handshake. My mom gave a rehearsed smile. "You look good." I nodded. "So what's this really about?" My dad leaned forward. "We've made mistakes. A lot of them. Understatement of the year." He continued. "We want to rebuild our relationship. No requests. No favors. Just family." I raised an eyebrow. "You want family after 5 years of radio silence and 1 dead bombshell?" My mom exhaled. "We were wrong. About Elijah. About everything. We didn't see what we were doing until it was too late." I watched her carefully. She wasn't performing, for once. She looked tired. Real. Still, words are cheap. Especially when they come with cappuccinos and guilt. I pulled out a folded sheet of paper from my coat pocket and slid it across the table. "What's this?" my dad asked. "Terms." He blinked. My mom unfolded it. Her hands trembled slightly as she read. "No requests for financial help. Ever again. No more revisionist family history. You own the lies. You correct them publicly. We move at my pace. On my terms. If you want a relationship," I said, "you accept these without argument." Silence. My dad nodded first. "Okay." My mom, eyes welling up, whispered, "Okay." I left without finishing my coffee. Because the old me would have sat through the entire thing just to be polite. The new me? I don't pay full price for fake peace. 2 nights later, Kareem and I were on my balcony, sipping drinks. He raised his glass. "To finally being the villain in their story." I laughed. "Better than being their fool." It started with a Facebook post. My mom, of all people, shared it. A grainy photo from 15 years ago, me and Elijah as kids, standing beside a broken-down bike I just fixed for him. Her caption? "Sometimes the quiet ones are the strongest. We're proud of you, Jordan. Always have been, even when we didn't say it." I nearly dropped my phone. It wasn't much. It didn't rewrite history. But it was the first public acknowledgement that I wasn't some bitter footnote in Elijah's Wikipedia page. Then came the messages, from family members who used to believe I was difficult. Uncle Marcus wrote, "I'm sorry we didn't see what you were dealing with. I wish I'd asked questions instead of assuming." And Carol, "If you ever need anything, support, advice, just someone to vent to, I'm here." Truly. Even Grandma, who already had my respect, mailed me a handwritten note. "Families mess up. But the real ones come back stronger. You lead with integrity, Jordan. I see you." Each word was a little stitch in a torn seam I hadn't realized I still carried. But I wasn't letting it all in yet. This wasn't forgiveness. It was just information. I took it. Filed it. Felt it. Didn't respond to most of them. Because this wasn't their redemption arc. It was still mine. Elijah, though? Radio silence. Until one night I got a DM request on Instagram. His profile pic was blacked out. No posts. No followers. Just a message. "You got what you wanted. Happy now?" I stared at it for a second. Then blocked him. Again. Because yes, I did get what I wanted. But not in the way he meant. I didn't want his ruin. I wanted my peace. And I'd earned it. Brick by brick. On my own. That weekend, I hosted a dinner at my place. Just a few close friends. Kareem, Alyssa, a couple co-workers who'd supported me through the storm. Good food. Cheap wine. Loud music. No drama. And no family. I looked around the table at one point, people laughing, eating, being real, and thought, this is it. This is family. Not blood. Not obligation. Just people who show up. Because they want to. A month later, I got a letter in the mail. Real envelope. No stamp. Hand-delivered. From Elijah. I almost tossed it. Instead, I opened it. Inside was one sentence scribbled in rushed handwriting. I wish I'd been more like you. No apology. No explanation. Just that. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel angry. I felt nothing. Because when you spend your whole life trying to be enough for people who only see your worth when it benefits them, you eventually stop needing to be seen at all. I folded the letter, placed it in a box labeled Old Lessons, and slid it under my bed. Then I poured a drink, stepped onto my balcony, and watched the sun dip behind the skyline I built my life in. No help. No handouts. Just grit, silence, and the determination to be better than what they expected. I used to dream of being invited back. Now, I wouldn't even attend. Because closure doesn't come when they apologize. It comes when you stop needing one.